Welcome to the first Paraguay edition of Feeding the World, Mercosur Business News. I'm absolutely delighted to be in this beautiful, yet sometimes unknown country to discuss a few crops, a few production, and also to have the narrative from Paraguayans themselves from Paraguay. And our first guest today is a very special, very well-known personality here in Paraguay, and he's the general manager of the Paraguay Meats Chamber. And the Paraguayan meat sector is one that has grown incredibly over the last 10-15 years. It's one that I have personally and professionally followed very closely, one that has really impressed me. Firstly, because of its access to markets. Secondly, because of its sustainability standards. And third, because it can really now compete in quality with countries like Uruguay, my country, Argentina, Brazil, but also other countries like the US, like Australia, like New Zealand. Paraguay is not the Paraguay you used to know. This is a very different Paraguay. It's a very entrepreneurial Paraguay that knows how to compete with the world. You will be really impressed, and you need to know how Paraguay has made it into the top leagues in the world. So welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And tell me, please, how have you made Paraguay a real success story over the last 20 years, particularly in beef?
Well, I think there has been a general consensus that one of the main pillars of our economy has always been cattle farming and meat production. And about 20-25 years ago, some leaders with a clear vision of the potential that Paraguay had started to work on a few main items that were fundamental to tell this story. First is the attention to animal health, which was a basic requirement for any market. Second was very big investments in industrial facilities. Most of our industrial facilities were built in the early 2000s, which gives us a much more modern beef industry than our competitors who have been in this business for much longer. And really also professionalizing the National Animal Health Service. So I would say that those three pillars have made us today, incredibly, we are the 9th largest beef exporter in the world, despite being a very small country with structural disadvantages. We're a Mediterranean, we're a landlocked country. We still have a lot of deficits in road infrastructure and highway infrastructure. Most of our exports go via the river, so we are exposed to drought. And despite all of these challenges, we have been able to compete pretty well with a lot of other countries that have been in this business a lot longer.
Competitiveness, that's key to Paraguayan success. So competitiveness at the production level, at the farm level, and the industrial level. So tell me, at production level, how can you compete, in terms of volume and quality with countries like neighboring Argentina or with New Zealand or with, the US? How at production level can you become that competitive?
Well, the opening of new markets has created incentives for more investment in cattle production. So there have been massive investments in genetic improvements. There has also been very large investments in infrastructure, in ranches, in feedlots, in finding the correct genetic mixes that adapt to climate, and have also now proved of the excellent quality that can be produced from these mixes of breeds, of Indian breeds with European breeds. There's also been a lot of investment and advances in technology for feed. So this access to the international market has really given us the feedback that we need to what the world is requiring in terms of quality. And I think we've done a good job in adapting, and really the numbers speak for themselves. We're talking about a sector that has grown 3 times in 20 years, so a 300% increase in average prices for beef, in production, in the amount of exports we're having. So this industry that has always been a pillar of the economy is now a very strong pillar for the economy. And that translates into jobs, it translates into investment, it translates into also the demand for more investment in highway infrastructure, in port infrastructure. So I think another advantage that we have is we still have a lot to grow. A lot of countries, traditional cattle producers or meat producers, have price problems, cost problems, the cost of land, the cost of labor, the cost of production, a lot of other challenges that these countries face. Paraguay, because it's sort of late to the party, we still have a lot of room to grow. And we have a very big country by European standards, a very small country by South American standards. But I think our main challenge is, now that we have showed the world that the quality is there, we have a challenge that we are a relatively unknown country. So we are very proud that what we introduce ourselves to the world with is our meats and the quality that we have. We make, I think we have the opportunity to make a good first impression to international markets and countries that don't know much about Paraguay. So we're very proud of that, and we really understand that this is where we need to invest in the public-private partnership that has given us so much success. So yeah, we were looking forward to the next few years. I think they're going to be really positive.
I have to say, being a Uruguayan, I have to admit that your beef is delicious. I've been trying it for the last week here, and I had very high expectations. I was coming from Argentina, I have been to Brazil, I am from Uruguay, and I thought, can Paraguay impress me? And boy, it did. So you were talking about genetics, what breeds do you have? I know that your traditional Nelores, which are, adapted to your climate, but what breeds or hybrids, or, what genetics are you using in Paraguay, and what genetics are you looking for?
So we're working hard we have worked hard, or people in the cattle sector have worked hard to find the exact combination for different parts of the country. Half of the cattle in Paraguay live in the Chaco, in the northern region, that has its own sort of climate, and then half of the cattle live in the southern part of the country. So every part of the country has its different breeds based on the climate. But generally, the consensus, I think, now is a good mix between the European Angus, Hereford cattle, and mixed with Indian Nellore Brahman cattle to make these combinations. And also efficiency in feed has also allowed to put more weight on the animals. And now that we've had a few rough years because of the drought, we're seeing the rains come back, the pastures improved, and I think the next few years are going to be really positive in terms of efficiency, what we can find, not only because of the genetics and the continued investment in that, but also in finishing what is traditionally grass-fed cattle in these feedlots to get the ideal weight, carcass weight that we're looking for, with the marbling we're looking for, with the quality we're looking for, and recent also public policy decisions in terms of animal identification, in terms of grading systems that are relatively new. We now have a better idea of the quality of our cattle, what percentage of the cattle is excellent, premium, what percentage needs to be improved. And this feedback is really important for ranchers to be able to understand what investments are necessary to really make the business as efficient as possible.
So you need to improve conversion rates as well.
Yes, we need to improve conversion rates. I think that the rains will also improve that, that we can have more births, that we can stop this descent in our cattle population, which has been hit a little bit in the past few years. This year, we seem to have stopped the fall, and hopefully now producers are able to keep more cattle in the ranches, so that reproductive rates are improved, and we can produce more cattle, and we can start growing our herd again.
And you were mentioning droughts. Is climate change an issue in Paraguay? Is it affecting you? You know, the Niña, and the whole climate change issue?
Yeah, I mean, El Niño, La Niña have been phenomenons that we've had here. I mean, no different than any other country in the world, probably, but because of our economy is very dependent on agribusiness. So both our agriculture and our meat production basically depends on the weather, right? So we've had a couple tough years, like I said, with the drought, but now it seems that we're gonna have the rains necessary to start repopulating our ranches.
I think something that sometimes when people learn about Mercosur from overseas is that we're truly dependent on the weather, because this is all open air production, unlike in Europe where you got a lot of indoor cattle farming, particularly in the dairy sector, but also in cattle farming. This is 100%, when we're talking about agriculture or cattle, it's 100% dependent on weather, so risk is a big factor. Do farmers in Paraguay get any sort of financial help from the government in terms of subsidies or in terms of access to finance, or are they being left on their own? The reason why I'm asking this is a lot of Europeans watch our programs. They're very used to EU subsidies, while our Mercosur producers have to really fight on their own and become incredibly competitive with very little support, just because we don't have the resources from our governments to support them. What's the case in Paraguay?
Well, I would say that in Paraguay, the production is basically all private sector. The animal production, and also the industrial facilities for the meat packing plants. Where the government has been very active and a strong ally has been with animal health. But in terms of subsidies, in terms of regulation of markets, we are also very much dependent on the value of the dollar. We're dependent on international prices, and we're also entering into a new world with this European Union Mercosur agreement, where we have to be competitive with countries that have a tradition of subsidies for their farmers. So that is a big discussion that we need to have, right? If Paraguay is going to be, or Mercosur in general is going to be the protein producer of the world, how do we compete in a world of tariffs, in a world of a dollar that's not predictable, in a world with wars? Paraguay has had two of its main markets, Russia and Israel, in these problems. So on top of all the natural risk that exists because of the weather, and because Paraguay is extremely dependent on exports, we export about 75% of the meat we produce. Because we're a small market and have the ability to produce for a lot larger markets, we are more exposed to international factors than other countries like the United States or Brazil or Argentina, where most of their production goes to local consumption. But having said that, I think it speaks to our resiliency. I think it speaks to a sector that's used to challenges and doesn't step away from a challenge. And it truly is a success story, considering the structural disadvantages that Paraguay is at. But we take that with pride, and we go forward, and we don't complain, and we just we're trying to gain access to more markets. There's actually a delegation from Mexico here this week. That is the country that we need to finish sort of North America. We gained access to the United States and Canada a few years ago, and now with Mexico, we sort of are finishing that chapter in our strategic planning with the government in terms of market access. And now we're putting our sights on Southeast Asia. Because Paraguay has a political relationship with Taiwan, we are not in the Chinese market, which is another disadvantage that we have compared to our competitors. So we're looking strongly towards Southeast Asia. We opened the Singapore market, the Philippines market a few years ago, and are using Taiwan sort of as a beachhead to gain access to other countries like Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia, these countries that really have massive populations. They don't have a traditional meat consumption high numbers, but they are developing countries, so the demand is growing. And I think that if Paraguay is able to diversify its markets, it also protects us from these risks that happen, so we don't depend so much on a few markets. 10 years ago, over 60% of our exports went to Chile and Russia.
Yeah.
Today, we're able to diversify much more with Israel, with Taiwan, with the United States, with Canada. We have Brazil. Chile continues to be our main market, but we now have alternatives. So I think the future is bright.
I completely agree, and I think that resilience speaks very highly of Paraguayans. I'm not sure whether the audience is grabbing a map now and looking at where Paraguay is a landlocked country, so it not only experiences all the shocks that we're all experiencing in the meat sector. So as Daniel was mentioning, the wars, the fact that we are price takers, we're not setting prices, we're taking prices, all the pressures from the markets in terms of sustainability, standards, international agreements, and everything that's got to do with compliance. But Paraguay has a structural challenge, as you were saying. You cannot just take the products out easily like Uruguay can, or Argentina can, or Brazil can. In a way, it's more similar to New Zealand, which has to get all the way, from that part of the world. They've got China nearby, but it's still, far, far away. Paraguay depends on its river, its fluvial network, and the openness and friendliness of the rest of Mercosur, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Let's be frank about it. And when we're talking about the Mercosur EU trade agreement, I'm going to ask you about it in a minute, Daniel. We took 25 years of negotiations, that agreement, and I always joke that when this all started, I was at primary school. So I was at primary school, then I did secondary school, I did university, I had children. My kids finished primary school, they finished secondary school, and they started uni, and we're still discussing this. And now it finally it's come provisionally into force from 1st of May, but that took a long, long time. But it's not only negotiating with the EU, we got to get our agreements together within Mercosur, and we got to get our quotas agreed, and there's competition within Mercosur, and there's an imbalance of power. We're talking about two fairly small countries, Paraguay and Uruguay, and we're talking about one very big country, which is Argentina, and we're talking about a continent-sized country, which is Brazil, which has got a lot of power worldwide. So, we got to negotiate between ourselves first, and then we got to negotiate with the European Union, for example, the quotas around beef. But the agreement is now in place from the 1st of May. How is that going to affect Paraguay?
I think it's very positive. I think that Paraguay has always had a challenge in Europe because of the tariffs, because we didn't have our own quota like other countries. We only had a very small Hilton quota. Today, Paraguay is in a position where it can really take advantage of those new agreements. However, as you expressed very clearly, our challenge now is to negotiate amongst ourselves to see how we distribute that quota. Paraguay's argument, I think, is very plain, right? That the whole concept, the whole idea behind Mercosur is to be able to negotiate as a bloc. So from that point of view, Paraguay is asking that we be treated as equal partners and that we are able to secure 25% of the quota. If we're not able to meet the quota, that would be returned to the table to be redistributed, like we do with other countries like Colombia. We also have, like I mentioned, structural disadvantages that force us to require that we be treated as equal partners, because we don't have the history that Argentina and Uruguay have in getting their own quotas for the United States, for example, or for the European Union. We don't have the political power that Brazil has to open trade deals with China or with the US. We're a small country, and politically, we don't have the force that these bigger countries have. Historically, we don't have the advantages to market access that they have had. We're also relatively new in the space. So there aren't many situations where Paraguay can get these types of agreements bilaterally. We depend on Mercosur as a bloc, and that's sort of our position. You know, the position that we heard from other countries has been very much in balance towards their favor. Brazil wants the quota based on their historical exports, which in terms of scale is not comparable. Argentina wants it based on the historic exports to the EU, which has been one of their main markets, right? So we need to find an agreement where we respect the principle of equality amongst negotiating countries, the concept of negotiating as a bloc, and I guess we're gonna keep talking until we get to an agreement.
I'm sure we will. That's the only way. How about sustainability? Because particularly and we haven't mentioned the Mercosur-Canada agreement and the Mercosur-EFTA agreement, which are very interesting as well. I think those are very high value markets, and Paraguay has a lot of potential there. But in terms of sustainability, you know, I think as Mercosur, we suffered a lot from those protests, particularly in Europe, you know, that lobby, whether we agree with it or not, whether it was science-based or not, whether it was politically driven or not, it happened. Now we got the EUDR, we got a lot of legislation to comply with. Sometimes we are very hurt as farmers and as Brazilians, Uruguayans, Argentinians, Paraguayans, because we think, well, hang on, you know, we're doing a lot of things right and we're being blamed for things that are not fair. This is one of the reasons why we're doing this, is to showcase that we are not the ogres of the world. We're doing things actually quite right, although we got a long way to go, and I'm sure we all agree we got a lot of things to improve on. So what's Paraguay at the production level, at the farm level? You were talking about animal health, about welfare, you know. What is Paraguay doing right, and what has Paraguay got to improve on?
Well, I think Paraguay has gone through a process of modernization in the past 25 years, which has really improved a lot of the social and environmental issues. Paraguay, the whole half of Paraguay has a zero deforestation law. So half of the country, it's illegal to knock down any forests. The northern part of the country is basically unpopulated. So it is where there is still some legislation that allows to clear land, which isn't technically forest. That's also the definition of forest, is also, you know, the flora is pretty diverse, where we have palms, we have different types of forests and coverage areas. But these requirements from the EU have also been a reaction to the more industrialized nations that have not taken care of the environment and are now sort of putting that responsibility on developing nations that still have a lot of forests. So the irony is that those countries that are most being looked at are the ones that still have the most amount of forest remaining, right? By those that have already knocked down all their forests. Regardless of that, and we think that there are basic requirements that we agree with. These high standards have also helped us improve a lot in our production methods, in the quality of our products. We receive audits regularly from very demanding markets, and those demands have allowed us to get to these standards, right? So I think there's a clear balance that needs to be made there, right? Not to be influenced by irresponsible or biased investigations or accusations. Try and work on some common sense policy that countries can abide by, taking care of the environment. Make sure that these don't become excuses to protect local production in the European Union, right? And go against the nature of these deals. So I think if there's good intentions, I think if people are responsible, I think the laws are in place. We have to work on making sure those laws are applied and that we're taking care of the environment. Because at the end of the day, because our economies are so much dependent on land and on nature, we are the people that are most concerned on taking care of it, right? So this is something that we need to talk about in a very objective way, not let ideological issues get in the way of common sense policies of taking care of the environment, but also being able to produce food for the world, right? But I think we're in a good spot, and I think we have to work together, and I think we'll be okay.
And I think there's a lot of potential for companies from the EU to come and do business here. We were talking about it earlier. I mean, the amount of companies that I've seen in Paraguay, from animal health to animal nutrition, through to agritech, German, Italian, French, European, UK, Irish, that are here selling their products and services is amazing, because Paraguay depends on those inputs, depends on those machineries. The big importers. I'm going to be back at the La Expo, which is the biggest rural show in Paraguay, in July. I invite anybody that wants to really understand the agricultural sector, including livestock, the agro, as we call it, to come and join this expo in July. I think it's 11 to 26, but you can find out the information on the Instagram account of the Paraguayan Rural Association, who are the organizers, and learn, but also to come and visit the Paraguayan countryside and to see how it's really produced, not to be biased by European or worldwide media, but to come and see for yourself. And one of my missions is to produce one of these programs, not just from Asunción, but to go to Chaco and speak to farmers and see how they do it. So I think I'm going to be very impressed, and I would like to thank you, Daniel, for your time, for your vision, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Thank you for your interest. One of our main objectives as a beef chamber or as a meats chamber, is to make sure that we are better known as a country. And you tried the quality of our products, of our meats, and so thank you for opportunities like this to share our experience and to get people more interested in Paraguay and in our meats.
Well, thank you. Thank you.